Welcome my friends, it's patch day here in Marvel Snap, and I hope you're strapped in for this one because we have some insane, these are some of the most heavy-handed OTA changes the developers have ever given us. We're going to rattle through the changes, and then we're going to break down the decks that I think you can use to immediately take advantage of the brand new meta state. We are going to begin with the bounce nerfs. This was the writing on the wall. The developers all but declared that they were going to be hitting bounce with this OTA. We're going to be almost insultingly short on rattling through the card changes so that we can spend a little bit more time looking at the alternate versions of decks and how we can adapt our decks to be able to include these changes. So Kitty Pryde from 1-0 plus 2 on return to 1-2 plus 1 on return. I think she is still good. I think that bounce will still use her. Her high highs are gone though. She's going to be more consistent if you draw her in the late game. I think what this kills is the Shuri Kitty deck, but then all other decks that were running Kitty will still use Kitty and still do okay. Hit Monkey from 2-0 to 3-2. He's definitely going to be harder to use now. Also worth noting here for both him and Kitty, the synergy with Bast is much weaker now. The Bast kickstarting your hand was such an insane high roll. The developers are subtly nerfing Bast's synergy with the deck here, even though Bast isn't on the list. I think bounce will actually cut Bast completely now because buffing the 1-2 and the 3-2 here just not exciting. Much harder to use. You still have the same ability of +2 per other card that you play, but you're going to have to really have a full stack of 1 cost that got set down to free with Beast to be able to see the same kind of pop-off final turn that you were used to before. Hit Monkey is definitely on the chopping block for bounce now, and Spider Ham is as well, going up from a 1-1 to a 2-2. He's still amazing control. I think that he's really going to shine now in more designated control decks and some conquest decks that just want that information out of their opponent. 2-2, this guy was a card and a half. I saw this coming a mile away. At 2-2, I think that he is still completely playable. The devs actually have a note that they are considering, and I'm reading into this a little bit, but that they are considering changing him to hit a random card instead of the highest cost card because of the way that he has pushed archetypes that key off of a single expensive finisher completely out of the meta. We're looking at Apocalypse, who's really been hurt. We're looking at death decks because Spider-Ham hitting the death just makes her effectively unplayable. So they are considering a even further nerf, or at least a side grade, so that he is not so oppressive to some specific archetypes. We'll see. I think that he's going to see a lot less play right now at a 2-2. At a 1-1, he was just way too easy to throw into everything. And I think for bounce, he's actually on the chopping block. So overall, bounce, the deck can still adapt and it should be solid. There are just different versions of bounce that we're going to start looking at, and I think that there's going to be more diversity in what you see when the opponent starts running the bounce tools. And now to the exciting stuff. Ooh, Phoenix Force, the fastest time to a buff for any card. Down from a 5-6 to a 4-5. Oh my gosh. It's amazing you don't change your deck at all, you just play it in the same list. The key thing to look at right here is that before, merging with multiple man gave you a 9 power card which could be killed by Shang-Chi, and then your battle plan could still fall apart. At 4-5, then you are at 8 power, which stays under the Shang-Chi if that's what you're looking for. And honestly, being able to play that combo on curve should just be able to win you the game by spawning all of these 8 power cards everywhere. You're still going to be susceptible to some forms of control, lockdown from Professor X or the Shadow King coming out, which both of those cards are definitely on the rise right now. But after the weekend mission was just such a chore with the old version of Phoenix Force, I'm quite happy to see this change coming in. And it gets only better with the Ghost Spider, last season's Battle Pass card, coming down from a 2-3 to a 1-2. She was already one of the most flexible move tools in the game, and now she is just better. Again, I don't think she's going to spawn any new decks or necessarily change deck construction around her, but everything that was running her is going to be much happier, though I do have an idea for a bounce move hybrid deck that is now going to be looking even better, with Falcon having the synergy of being able to pick up Ghost Spider or the Iron Fist. She is now the exact mirror of Iron Fist in terms of abilities, but then matching in terms of stat line, and I really like that card design. Very happy to see this change. Very happy to see this change as well. If you picked up Living Tribunal out of the cache, you can now rejoice. He was abysmal. Now, I know some decks out on ranked ladder were able to find success. You would play Living Tribunal, and then the shock to your opponent from seeing somebody actually playing Living Tribunal would cause them to drop their phone as their $1,000 piece of technology shattered on impact with the bathroom tile. They would disconnect, and you would occasionally be able to rob them of some cubes. Now I think that he is actually just good. Up from a 6-6 to a 6-9, good gosh, because this deck was always keying off of using Iron Man and then hopefully Onslaught as well to be able to hit a massive wombo combo. This +3 multiplies many times over. And if you are playing the Iron Man Living Tribunal and the Onslaught combo, that's already 21 power to every single lane, and that's disregarding anything that you do in the previous turns. Now you say, but Teddy, you have Living Tribunal and Onslaught together in a deck that's 2/6 cost. I have to run some kind of convoluted energy cheat to still be able to get there. Not so with this next change. Shoo. This is the one I'm really scared of. Magik down from a 5/3 to a 3/2. She is still, her ability will not trigger on turn 6, but she is playable on turn 6. That means that you can get the 3/2 body to the board, she just will not activate. This was a change that a lot of people were wanting even for the old version of Magik, to give her just... There are those Hail Mary situations where you just need the body on the board, and her being completely restricted from being played was quite painful. And now, because she synergizes with Surfer, that's where everybody is going to be looking, but I think there are a number of archetypes that are going to rejoice at having Magik. I'm really scared of this. I honestly thought that the developers wanted her to be effectively unplayable because they didn't want to have as many longer games. Be ready for some longer games now, guys, because at 3/2 she is so easy to set up and then forget in the early game, and then you just have a deck that scales into late and thrives on turn 6 and 7, a deck that really comes alive in those final turns. A control deck, a Devil Dinosaur deck that is then continually regenerating its hand to always have power to be able to drop to the board. The Surfer deck that now has 3s and filling the entire board across every single lane. We're dawning into a brave new world, my friends. Let's look at our decks. First up here, maybe the deck that I am most excited for is an alteration to bounce that is going back to a moving bounce hybrid. This was a deck that I was pioneering in the very early release of the Ghost Spider, and I was loving the combo potential that she had with the Human Torch, how easy it was to Iron Fist the torch to the side and then Ghost Spider it back to another position, being able to yoink cards away from Angela to keep on playing and scaling her up. This one had incredible potential, and now with Ghost Spider being a 1/2, now it is, so I'm recording this early. They give members of the content creator program access to the changes a little bit early. I don't get to play with the cards, but I do get to see what they are to be able to prep the content for you guys. That's why you're always going to see the old stat lines right now in the cards as we break them down. But being able to have Ghost Spider with synergy to the Falcon as another way to be able to return and keep on cycling these powerhouse cards is going to be excellent. And if you can, even if it's just that you knock Human Torch around a little bit, and then on the final turns you pick back up the cards that will move your cards, that is the Iron Fist and the Ghost Spider, and then use Dagger. Dagger scales so quickly in the final turns that those two cards could be your lane winners as long as you're able to hit the right combos. The next bounce deck that I think deserves a second look is Hawk Bounce. This was the definitive version of Bounce prior to Kitty Pryde coming to the game, and now with Kitty Pryde I think that it will do even better. But again, you have incredible synergy with Bast, being able to pick up the power level of the Hawk and the Mystique, and then we are using reapplications of Black Widow in conjunction with Korg to be able to scale up our Hawk combo. We're giving Mystique the extra target of the Iron Man to give you honestly an insane high range if you're able to get into that combo, especially if you're tagging these girls and gals with the Bast. I'm not sure if Mysterio deserves a spot here or if Chavez is going to hang on to her position in every single one of these versions for the extra consistency on being able to find particularly Beast and then like Angela and Bishop early. I think that they will, and so we're running Shang-Chi here as a little bit of control as ballast. You could of course cut the Shang-Chi, I mean current Bounce doesn't run the Shang-Chi. You could cut the Shang-Chi and that's a flex slot to be able to run a lot of different things. You could go for additional hand attack out of the Scorpion, or you could be looking at, as I said, the Mysterio, which loves being tagged by the Bast, and even though that you will not necessarily have the synergy with the Hit Monkey, in this deck we're not running the Hit Monkey, but you still have great synergy alongside the Bishop to be able to scale that guy up. Now, rapid fire, 3 different decks that are going to be able to thrive on Magik. Oh man. Again, I am so terrified for this change. We're looking at Magik Surfer. This is the one that everybody's eyes are going to be on because she is now a 3/2 and can herself be buffed by the Surfer. And Sarah, energy efficiency compounding for turn 6 and turn 7 is where things can really get out of hand. With your deck bloated around 3 costs and potentially 4 costs, this opens up so much opportunity for you. You could even be looking at trying to force in a Spider-Man or an Iron Man, because on turn 6, if you've set up Sarah, then you'll be able to play one of those plus a 3 cost, and then you'll be able to go into turn 7 for all of the Surfer 3-drop combo potential that you want to be able to hit to just explode onto the board. It also gives Sarah control a great opportunity, because the more turns that you have in the game, the more likely it is for you to be able to line up your control cards to connect with the opponent. So there is unlimited potential to run Magik alongside Sarah. Effectively, you could run Magik into any deck that is using Sarah right now, except for the Sarah Miracle deck. That deck is meant to be gassed out by the final turn, but any of the other versions of the deck are going to love having this power duo reunited in a state where they can coexist. So this version with the Surfer, we're looking at Wong to be able to get a little bit of a high end here on either Ironheart or the Surfer. I was wondering if we want to use Absorbing Man, because then you could key off of additional Broodling spawns, which is also a fun trick. So Wong is swappable, switchable, swatchable with the Absorbing Man, but then otherwise we just have a ton of buffs. We're even getting more additional buffs out of the Nakia. You have to be careful with the deployment of the Shadow King, because he's going to be resetting your own cards here as well. But trying to find a control card, it could be the Shang-Chi. I'm thinking that Shadow King is going to do fine though for how the meta is currently positioned. And then the Killmonger also is an enormous workhorse up against the Thanos decks that are absolutely everywhere right now. If they end up being a destruction deck, then that's where the Shadow King is able to thrive, because all the destruction cards end up stacking a ton of additional power on their bodies, and you'll be able to unwrite all of that with the Shadow King. Speaking of destruction, I think Magical Nimby is going to thrive on the new Magik. The Nimrod always felt incredibly clunky, and we're about to get X23 to make Nimrod even better. This deck is already doing fine. We've seen out of Cozy's video, there's a very good Cozy video with a breakdown from Lambie's series on his Nimrod list, which is really solid. It's a competitive deck already, and it's getting additional tools to be even more powerful. Now, in the face of a meta that is it's consistently going more toward armor and the Professor X, there are wrenches being thrown in this deck's game plan. It is very heavily countered by the presence of those cards. So take this deck's advice with a little grain of salt that it could be a bad meta to run this deck in. We'll have to see where things fall. But when you can get Nimrod on 5, knowing that you get turn 6 and turn 7 because you set up Magik early, it is absolutely fantastic. It's also worth mentioning that in any deck that is running a location fixer, you can just lose the Limbo on turn 6 as a surprise. So all of these Thanos decks with the Reality Stone, they're going to be holding those to be able to snipe out your Magics. People who are running Storm be looking to snipe out your Magics. They can even do it in the mid game now that you're trying to play Magik so early, so they're not necessarily even penalized by holding the Storm back for a while. And then Scarlet Witch has really faded, but if she comes back around, so again, there's a risk to the Magik, but when this deck is able to get multiple destructions around the newly buffed Nimrod, it goes insane. So when you hit your combos and the opponent doesn't have the exact control pieces that will stop you, you're going to pop off. Finally, this is a deck that is being revived from when Sarah Magik was in absolutely every single deck. Now, it's worth mentioning this is going to be the last Magik deck that I talk about. She's going to be good in Mr. Negative as well. Is she going to bring Mr. Negative up to the top of the meta? I don't think so. But maybe a Sarah Negative deck will live again. Actually, I'm quite sure that it will. So that's yet another one that you can build. But here we're looking at Devil Dino as our key energy generator, or our key power generator, and then we thrive in the later turns because we are able to generate so many cards, and especially cards on the high end. I mean, look at this, guys. We can set up Nick Fury alongside Quinjet, and then we can play all of the cards that he generates because of getting the extra turn and the energy cheat out of the Quinjet. We have the additional energy cheat out of the Zabu to be able to fit our Shang-Chi, Nick Fury, White Queen, and then we're also getting the discount from Zabu on whatever is generated by Agent Coulson. So even though you only see 3 4 costs here, there's actually 4 4 costs in the deck, as long as you find the Agent Coulson to be able to play down. We have a little bit of control from the Cosmo. We're expecting to be able to outgas our opponent with the Devil Dinosaur, so we want some protection there. And then we're running Rogue because I find that a little bit more elegant than running Enchantress in a deck that is using the Devil Dinosaur, but you can of course run the Enchantress as well. And this deck has already been proven to be a midline. It's like a gatekeeper to the upper echelons of the meta. I think with Magik, it gets much better. And with the Sarah Magik combo, again, things are going to get wild, friends. And finally, the moment you were probably all waiting for, the Triumphal Tribunal deck. Ooh, we had to switch over to the free-to-play account because the main account does not have Living Tribunal yet. And I am actually regretting that now because this deck looks so fun to be able to pilot. Oh man. So again, we're using Magik and Wave and Electro all to be able to give us assurance on being able to either ramp into the Iron Man Living Tribunal Onslaught combo, or being able to energy cheat or turn cheat our way to playing those cards down. If you set up the Magik early, then you have to play Iron Man on 5, but you can play Onslaught or Living Tribunal in either order. If you wave either the Living Tribunal or the Onslaught down, then you have to find Iron Man again on 5, and then you have to be able to find the final 6-cost card on that turn 6. If you are using the Electro, then with the ramping, you do have to also find Iron Man early and play in a much tighter turn order. So there's all different slight nuances on the draw order, but because of the way that these are all ongoing effects, they don't have to be, these can be played in any order. It's just depending on how you're energy cheating them out there, there's different benchmarks that you have to understand. Like if I don't have this, then the combo is actually broken. We are trying to enable that even more, facilitated even more by the Jubilee, potentially pulling something incredibly powerful. So if we, and then we have other redundancies and consistencies. If you don't find the Iron Man, what do? Yeah, you do the Devil Dinosaur, because he's also going to pop off with the Onslaught. If you don't find the Onslaught, well, you go to Devil Dinosaur again. Iron Man, Devil Dinosaur, and Living Tribunal is also going to be looking very good. If you do not find the Living Tribunal, this is the one that really hurts. You downgrade all the way to Omega Red. I know, you could run Mr. Fantastic. You could be running Claw, but I think that the Omega Red is the only inclusion that I am making here, because we are also squeezing in the protection cards of the Invisible Woman and the Cosmo. If you have clever deployment of the Cosmo, that can just win you some games anyway. With how much more popular Wong is becoming, this is a good boy. This is a good boy to have in your decks. And then the Ant-Man, just because I wanted a 1-cost, and you know what? Ant-Man on an Onslaught does some kind of nutty things. He spikes up to a 7 power, and then if that's getting multiplied by the Iron Man, you can go off, my friends. You can go off. So is this deck going to be good enough to run in Conquest? It's 100% good enough to run in Ranked. Is it good enough to run in Conquest? We shall see. We shall see. I think it is right on the cusp with the new power level of the Living Tribunal, and how easily it is able to protect itself and how consistently it is able to find its highest tier of the combo. Because remember, Magik giving you turn 7 gives you an additional card draw as well to be able to plumb through the deck and find all the cards. And then the conjunction of Magik and Jubilee, because you're playing Magik on 3, Jubilee on 4, your deck is thin to nothing. You're going to know almost every game you're going to see the cards that you need. The question is, do you see them in the exact right order? If Iron Man is towards the bottom of the deck, then you can still get pinched, but I'm very excited for this one. So there's all the changes for the OTA. Did I miss anything? Is there any decks that you have banging around in your mind that you think are going to be incredible with these new changes? How hard do you think Bounce really got hit? Let me know in the comments down below. I love chatting everything Snap down there. And I can't wait to see you guys on the card tables with all these new cards. I will be streaming on Friday with exclusively the new decks that we are theory crafting. Can't wait for that. Stay tuned to the channel. Till next time, thank you guys for watching. Keep on snapping.